Hello, Happy Valley. Today's video is going to be an introduction to the 7 elements of art. We have line, shape, form, space, value, color, and texture. Let's get started. The 7 elements of art. The elements of art are the basic building blocks or ingredients to a work of art. They are visual tools that artists use to create art. So artists use these elements or ingredients and they mix them with the principles of design to complete and compose a piece of art. Not every work of art has all the elements of art in them, but there's always at least 2 present. For example, a sculptor by default has both form and space in a sculpture because both of those elements are 3-dimensional. Our first element of art is going to be line. And line is the path created when an object moves from one point to another. Lines can show movement. They can emphasize or show importance. Think of when you underline something, you're trying to show its importance. They can be subtle and delicate. There are really tons of words out there that describe line. Thick lines, thin lines, skinny lines, vertical lines, horizontal lines. There are many words out there. Our second element of art is shape. And shape is created when the beginning of a line connects itself or intersects another. So in the image on the screen, you have 2 lines that are running parallel to each other. Once we connect them, they make a shape. Now, shapes can be both geometric or they can be organic. Geometric shapes are man-made and they have names. So circle, square, and triangle. Opposite of that are organic shapes. They're unpredictable. There's no name for them. Our third element is form. And form is created when a shape appears to be 3-dimensional. So here we have a square, but what we can do is extend it and make it appear as a cube. So when shapes get this added dimension of depth, they transform into forms. So instead of having a square, we now have a cube, or a circle becomes a sphere, or we even have a cylinder. Our fourth element of art is space. And space is the emptiness or area around, between, above, below, in which an artwork is organized. Now there's a difference in space. There is 2-dimensional, which is what you see on the screen. Think of it like a piece of paper. You are working within those dimensions. That's the area in which you are allowed to work. You can draw inside of that area. 3-dimensionally, think of a sculpture. So an artist has to think about how that work of art is going to be in the space it's in. How are people going to interact with it? How are people going to run around it or look around it, work around it? They have to think about how that artwork is going to be organized in the space it's in. So let's talk about space in 3 dimensions. Now this is a flat piece of artwork. This is actually a chalk drawing on a street. But it looks 3-dimensional. It looks as if you could fall down into the depths of earth. However, this artist has this out in public and had to think about how people were going to interact with it. Now you have to be standing in a certain particular spot in order to see this exactly as it is in the picture. If you were standing over to the far right-hand side, you see where that little green square is? If you were standing over there, this would look quite different. Again, the artist had to work 2-dimensionally because they're working on a flat surface. They're working on the ground, but they had to think about how this was going to be in the space it's in, how people were going to interact with it. Now here's a better example. This is a bust. A bust is something of the head. And this is in a public space. Now it looks quite weird. It's actually speckled. But if you look at the very top of it, you can see that it looks really black or dark. And originally this was a black stone. But this is in a public place, and the artist thought, what's going to happen to it when people are interacting with it? People love to throw their gum and stick it underneath tables. Just have a look at my classroom tables and you'll see. So he encouraged our people to interact with this by throwing their gum on it. However, what he didn't think about is how that gum was going to interact with the heat. And think about what happens when gum gets really hot. It starts to ooze and get sticky and run. And so ultimately, that is what ruined the sculpture, and they had to remove it earlier than when it was supposed to be taken down. But again, that artist had to think about the space in which his artwork was going to be and what was going to happen to it. Our fifth element of art is value. And value is just how light or dark a color is. Every color has a value. Now when we work with value, we will work with a gray scale, working from light to dark, white and black. However, again, every color has a value. It's just how light or dark that color is. And value is a very important element of art. It can make things that are two-dimensional, like this sphere or the circle, appear three-dimensional by adding value to it, adding shading to it. It now looks three-dimensional. So value is a very important element of art, and it will be present in almost every single two-dimensional art piece. Our sixth element of art is color. And color is a very unique element. It's the way we see light reflected off of a surface. Now there's different definitions for color, but this is the primary one. What this means, look at this image up here on the screen. So you have a red apple. And this is something in nature, natural. Okay, so an apple is natural. What's happening is all of the wavelengths are being absorbed into the apple. All of the light wavelengths are being absorbed into the apple except one. And that color would be red. So that wavelength is being reflected off of the apple, and that's how we see it as red. Now that doesn't mean that something that's man-made, that's how color works. It's a little bit different because we are making it the color we want. We're adding something into it. We are blocking the natural light from reflecting. So this is in nature, this definition, the way we see light reflected off of a surface. It's completely different when we're talking about something that's man-made. And we'll get into that whenever we get to color. But color in art, there's so many different color schemes that artists use. And we have a tool that we use called the color wheel. And that helps us organize and understand colors. When you understand the color wheel, you'll also understand the color schemes that we have, such as primary colors, secondary, tertiary, as well as complementary. And our last element of art is texture. And texture is the look or feel of a surface. Now, I bet all these little images that are popping up on your screen, you can almost identify each one of them because you have seen them or interacted with them in your daily lives, right? But if you were to take your finger and rub it on the screen, do you think it would feel exactly as it looks? No. So this is implied. Okay, this is a picture of it, but you know if you were to actually touch it, it would feel smooth. It is the look of the surface, not the actual feeling of the surface. So artists use these to help represent these different textures, these different feelings. And that, in a nutshell, is our 7 elements of art.